Contrast is a collaborative work, a podcast fully produced and hosted by the officers and residents of the Idaho Correctional Institution in Orofino.
Welcome to Contrast. Today on Contrast, we're going to talk about the wardens and our history at this facility. Help everybody introduce themselves. My name is Kent Shriver. I'm Deputy Warden of Operations.
Amy Anderson, Deputy Warden of Security.
And Tarima Carlin, I'm the warden.
And our other
Resident
is
Dave.
Thanks, Dave. So I guess I'll start off. Tomorrow is my 26-year anniversary of being here. So pretty interesting. It's been a long go. Oof.
You started when you were 3?
3 years old, yes.
Okay.
Very good.
Just
Very
clarifying
good.
that.
I'm only 27.
Right.
In dog years.
So tell us your history. Isn't that what we're talking about?
What'd you do before that?
Well, I just got out of grade school. No, I'm just kidding. So I was actually in the service. I was in the Navy, active duty for 4 years. Got out of that, worked construction first a summer, and then got hired on with the prison as a stepping stone to become a police officer or something like that. But I decided to stay because we had more to offer. It was more of a rewarding career for me. So,
Right.
yeah, that's kind of how I got started, foot in the door.
Did you ever think that you'd be where you are today when you started?
No, actually, when I first started, it really was just a stepping stone. It was a way to get myself into the door with the state government. I wanted to work for the state police. I'm actually glad that I didn't because of the opportunities I've had at the prison. And I've gotten to do so many different things, whether it's the tactical side of things, the CERT, firearms, special projects, going out and checking on route, work crews, trails, fire crews, the programming side of things, education department, and especially right now, I'm really excited about what we're doing now and the way we're heading because we're really looking at having residents being able to go online and actually take college courses, actually doing degree programs. And so it's a pretty huge thing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works out. So
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about that.
yeah, it's going to be neat.
So how far in were you when you realized that you think this is going to be your path in life?
I started as correctional officer, was going to college at the same time, full-time. I was getting a degree in computer systems analysis and repair, so I'd be a tech guy, IT. Put some feelers out for that type of position in different places. And before I had any offers, I got promoted to sergeant. And although I liked being a CO, I liked working on the units and stuff like that. Once I became a sergeant, I realized I had a lot more that I could affect change with, working with staff as well. And then that really changed my focus and what I wanted to do in life. And so instead of leaving and going on to an IT career or something of that nature, I decided to stay once I got promoted.
If I'm correct, you guys all started as regular COs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we did.
Do you see that? Is that common with wardens and deputy wardens, or is that something that's unusual?
I think it's pretty common.
Right now we're starting to see a trend with the Department of Corrections, Idaho Department of Corrections, where there are a few wardens that did not start out as correctional officers. You guys had a chance to be along for the ride, I guess you could say, when we interviewed Warden Janelle Clement.
Oh, right.
And she started out as a clinician with the department. And then I believe that we have one warden that may have started out in food service. I can't recall exactly. But you are definitely starting to see a little bit of a trend, a change as far as that goes. But the majority of the wardens that we currently have, both deputy warden and warden level, definitely started out as correctional officers.
Does it give an advantage to doing the job to be able to understand, well, not only from the from the staff side of it, but also from the inmate or the resident side of it, as far as, you've seen it all. You've been there, you've done there.
I think so. I think it's a benefit for us because we understand how things work behind the scenes. When we make decisions, we're trying to recall what we used to do. We used to have to do all the roll-ups, and we used to have to, escort people into SAG. And so when we start to deal with maybe processes that aren't working or looking at changing something, we can kind of have that discussion. I think the other thing is when you have people that are like, that's so much work. And you're like, well, remember back when you didn't leave shift until you had a roll-up done. You absolutely did not leave. And so if you're throwing people in SAG at 2:00, you were there finishing that, and property didn't do it back in the day. I mean, that's just like one of those little things. And things have changed, with work increasing. But, you just remember that you just had to stay and do those things. So I think it helps. And then it helps staff look at us differently.
It's kind of the idea of they look that they know you've been in the trenches kind of at times. But with that, I went into programs without not a lot of program experience. I wasn't a case manager. I had facilitated groups in the past, but I wasn't actually a case manager, so I hadn't done that type of work. So going into that, I went into that job as more of a leader, and I really relied on my staff that already knew the job to do the job and to tell me what they needed to accomplish their job. And so I think it depends on how you don't necessarily have to have tons of experience in it if you're a good leader, good manager. You take the ideas from your staff and what they need to get their job done, and then you can kind of see which staff are not really working hard or not, but the ones that really are, and you can focus more on them, getting their ideas to help mold and make changes. So you don't necessarily have to have tons of experience in that. But for us, I think in security aspects, things of that nature, living it, doing that job, been there, we have a better understanding of how some of our decisions are going to affect the things that staff do. And I think that's important to know.
What's been some of your setbacks, some of the things along your career that kind of, you look back now and you see it as, maybe you stumbled or maybe, was there any point where you thought maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah, I mean, I had a break in service. I had been here for 10 years or with the department for 10 years and then had 2 little kids at home and kind of hit a wall in my career. And so I thought, I went and worked for the county probation, juvenile probation for about 8 months. And I knew the first week I was there, I was like, you made the worst decision ever. And the grass, that was a valuable lesson for me, that the grass isn't greener on the other side. I was at home more. I was making less money, and I just was miserable, which is, if this goes out online, it's going to be bad. But it was just, I had lost those people I worked with every day, and it was just a different environment, and it didn't work for me. So I came back. I was fortunate enough to be able to come back, and so that was huge. Your grass is greener where you water it, and after being back, I came back in 2002, at the end of 2002, and then promoted to sergeant in 2003. And it renewed me. So it was a benefit. And then it, pushed me. And there's definitely been I think we've all been through a lot of challenges throughout our career. But that was one that was impactful for me. It was a lesson learned.
Yeah, or go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm trying not to take over this because it should be about you guys too. But two as well. But much to the, what Amy had to say, and that is that sometimes your setbacks are actually your best lesson. It may be the hardest lesson that you have ever in your life, but I can look back at things that at the moment I felt were setbacks, but actually it was somebody looking out for me in that moment in time. So I started right out of college, and this was actually supposed to be a step for me to go into probation and parole. That's really where I wanted to go. And actually, when I had started college, I thought about being an attorney, but I didn't want to go beyond the 5 years it took me because I had a bad counselor and who didn't tell me I needed to do a foreign language. And so it took me longer to finish college. But I had done my internship in District 2, and I really loved that job. I had had an opportunity to write a couple of PSIs and do ride-alongs, and I really thought that you could impact people in the community that way. And so I was actually told, go get a job as a correctional officer, get on with the state, and then you can move on. And so when I started, I was pretty gung-ho, and I got pulled into a lot of really fun things right away. So within like the first 2 years, I was on the firearms team and different things. And I promoted really quickly. But the next year, we had a huge budget crisis in the state of Idaho. And despite my seniority, and I wasn't in the bottom 3, I still was voluntarily demoted, is what they called it, because of my years of service with the state. Because there were other people that had more years of service with the state.
Wasn't it military too?
Yes.
Their background.
And military background also was an additional point for those individuals. So there were people that were lower on the seniority list than me that got to keep their stripes and I didn't. And that's a pretty big deal when you're young and dumb. So I felt like that was a huge setback for me. And I really felt like I was, I'd lost everything. I mean, I can remember that day being horrible. And I look back now, and the opportunities that I had after that, I was able to become a correctional officer again. I had to humble myself. I went to special projects. I got to learn so many more things than I would have ever known as a sergeant if I had kept my stripes, because I had always only worked A block because it was exciting. It was close custody. It was go, go, go. And so I got to go over to special projects, got to do some crews. I even did a search and rescue with a resident crew one evening and really got to learn a lot more about myself. And in that process, I chose to transfer to another facility. And so I promoted back to sergeant at Cottonwood, where I learned a lot about the rider program. And I felt like I was able to go up there and make an impact with staff as well, because, and I'm going to have to be careful about how I word this because I don't want to offend anybody, but they were just coming out of a drill instructor type of program, a boot camp type of program, and trying to work more towards a rewards-based system. And that was just something that came natural to me, but wasn't natural for the staff that were there. And so I felt like I was really able to figure out who I wanted to be as a correctional professional, as well as I was given an opportunity while I was up there to become a case manager. And so the warden that was there at the time offered me a position as a case manager, which was something I had started looking at. And because I had a kid at home and I was kind of tired of working shift work and it just wasn't always convenient. And that is when I became a case manager. If I hadn't gone to Cottonwood, I don't think I ever would have looked in that direction. And the truth is, and I told this to a tour that came through this week, I told a couple of the guys that came in that not that I don't love what I'm doing today. I love what I'm doing, but my absolute favorite position in my entire career at both Cottonwood and in Orfino was being a case manager. And that was because I had individual contact with you guys, the residents. I had a security background, so they weren't getting by on me, right? But I could still do a lot of the fun things, firearms team if I wanted. I don't think I was tactical still by then, but I loved that one-on-one contact, being able to follow through with people, release planning, groups, all of that stuff. And that was really the foundation for who I am today as a warden. And so I think that while Amy talks about going to a different job out of state service to a county, I talk about going to another facility and also jumping to programs. Shriver did the same thing. And I think that makes you a much more it makes you a more well-rounded supervisor. You don't have to be an expert with the people that you supervise, but you have to be a good leader and you have to be able to know how to encourage your staff, and to also listen to your staff. That's something I've learned. And so obviously I've been to Cottonwood twice now. You just never know when things might change in your career. Just those setbacks that we talk about are sometimes the best lessons that you can ever have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember you were my case manager way back when I was in closed custody, and you were a really good case manager.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I could see where that would be something you enjoyed doing because you were really good at it.
She was popular back then. They liked her.
Yeah.
But not
Popular
anymore.
Yeah.
She was Karen Wargow of A Block.
So I did have a time, probably 11 or 12 years in, where I kind of got, I guess, tired of the job. I'm not sure what went on there, but I started looking at other things. I actually started a custom cabinetry business, building kitchens and bathrooms, and I had that running part-time. And I went back to school, so I started doing that too. So I was doing too many things, which was taken away from everything that I was doing. But I finished all that stuff up. I still had the cabinet business, and then I decided to join the Army National Guard as an officer. And so I also did that for 5 years. I think I was able to change a lot of how I did things. I learned a lot as a leader in the Army. And I changed my whole leadership style, I think, which helped me have a new look on things and how I was working with people. And then I went to Cottonwood as a program manager. I transferred from lieutenant, lateral transferred to program manager in Cottonwood. I got some real good experience, more on the programming side of things. I thought I was going to be there for a couple of years, but it ended up being 1 year, and then I got promoted here as the deputy warden of operations, which kept me in the programming field. And so now we've been doing amazing things in our school, our podcast that we have going. Just a lot of neat things that we, as a whole, all three of us are able to affect those things and allow them to happen. And honestly, it's the residents that make this podcast work. We just come in for the comic relief for the most part. All of the work is being done by residents, and a lot of extra time put in this. Lots of time that is all behind the scenes that you don't know anything about. So
Dave, you actually asked a specific question, and I did not answer it. So I want to go back and answer it for you. You asked, when did we realize that this was our business, our career, our passion? And I want to say that I was about 3 years in. I went down and interviewed for a PO position. So I can't remember if I was a sergeant at the time, if I had just gotten demoted. I don't recall. But it started out a long career of interviews for positions that I always came in second place for. Always. And I didn't get it, even though the district manager knew me well. But I didn't interview well, and so I didn't get it. And that was when I realized that prisons was where I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
Now, through those years since then, I can look back and discover interviews that I really, really wanted the position, or I really, really wanted to go. I interviewed for Washington State 1 year because I thought I wanted to move. I didn't get it, thank God, because I want to say that it was like the next year we had all kinds of budget issues, and Washington State is a nightmare because they are unionized, and so there's just so many things that you can and can't do to manage your budget. And then I don't know how many times I've interviewed for different positions in Boise and always came in second place. And there is a purpose for that. And I look back now and I know that my purpose was here. And the moment I realized that that's where my passion needed to be, that's when things started to grow. So, yeah, long answer to a very short question. Probably 3 years into my career, I knew this was it.
And what did you do before?
I've only had 2 jobs in my entire life. So I had,
That's two more than me.
that's pretty funny. Most people look at me like I'm crazy. So I worked at a veterinary clinic from the time I was 14 until I took this job as a correctional officer.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I've had different roles in those positions, obviously, but I've literally only had 2 full-time jobs, working at a veterinary clinic and going to college, high school and college, and then working here.
I had a lot of jobs before I started. I was 21 when I started this career, and I moved to Idaho from another state, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to go into law enforcement, and so my uncle worked in medical at this facility and actually said, you should try this. And then he said, they're opening up a females facility in Pocatello, so go that route. And actually started with them and opened that first female facility. But I was doing all kinds of odd jobs right out of high school, and nothing was a career. So I had at one time had like 3 different jobs, and in coaching too. I was coaching in the community. So, I was just trying to find my way until I got this job.
Yeah.
I worked a lot of fast food.
Yeah.
And and now I eat a lot of fast food. She's laughing over here. I worked for a mechanic for a year, so it was kind of neat. I got to learn a lot about cars and stuff. And then I went in the Navy, and right out of the Navy, construction.
What did you do in the Navy?
I was law enforcement in the Navy. I was a master at arms. Yeah.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
You weren't a master of anything in the Army. I mean, in the Navy.
You don't even know where I was at.
No, I know, right?
Nice one.
Sorry.
So if you were law enforcement in the Navy and you were pretty young, it's always been kind of in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I wanted to be an FBI agent. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And
Everybody's got to have a dream.
that's right.
And you were on a ship, right?
Yes.
So what kind of policing do you do on the ship?
You write a lot of tickets for haircuts. Yeah. They would do pictures and stuff for after you do a tour, a pack they call it. They would have an annual kind of thing like you do after high school, and so they had
called a
pictures of me,
yearbook.
a guy on a fork truck with my little thing flipped open, looking at him like I'm writing the fork truck a ticket. No, this was for a haircut. It's out of rags. Yeah, we didn't do much. We had some drugs on there. Most of the time, it was because we had Marines on board the same ship, like 2,000 Marines. And usually it was breaking up fights between best friends that were Marines. That's typically what we did. We did have a brig, though, and it was interesting because you could get 3 days bread and water, and that's literally all you got to eat.
Oh.
3 times a day. As much bread as you wanted.
So when you respond to calls, did you have your own siren or did you have to do it yourself?
No, I had to do it myself. Yeah, funny. And I just had this little thing on my flashlight that I waved around and everybody got on my way. Worked out good. Jeez.
I'm picturing that mall cop right now.
Yeah.
Blart.
Paul. I'm going to start calling you Paul.
Oh, yeah. That's good stuff. No, it's not. Quit making fun of me.
Yeah, they can't even have you're so old, they wouldn't have even had little scooters or like
No, we didn't have that
hoverboards
kind of stuff
or
back
anything
then,
back
no.
then.
Segways.
No, I didn't
You're
have
not allowed to
Segways,
have
wasn't new.
horses on. You weren't allowed to have horses on that
Horses?
ship, right?
Horses, really?
Yeah.
Horses.
That's
What
how
are
old
those
you
little
are.
wheelie shoes? Did you have those to get there
Look,
quicker?
our ships had sails. They had sails, and it was wooden ships, okay? We had cannons. Yeah, big deal.
I bet you did not have.
matey.
I bet you didn't have a Captain Charles vein though.
No.
Black Sails. If
Yeah,
anybody's
we haven't watched
interested
that
in
show.
what I'm
None
talking
of us know
about,
what you're talking about.
I know it's a pretty amazing show. The history of
That
Nassau.
escalated quickly.
His really nice hair. Unlike you, you would have written him
Very
a ticket.
little hair.
He'd have been like, "You're out of rags."
Yeah.
Pirates don't have rags.
That patch is on the wrong eye. You're getting a ticket.
Oh,
Can you imagine when eyes
Out of
completely
control.
gone, but you have the patch?
On the other side, and you see the eye that should have a patch.
Sorry. Every time we hit the
Out of
table,
control.
it sounds
You're
like,
out of control.
Sounds like Godzilla's coming. You know how it does that in the movies?
That's what you were doing when you were talking. That's why I
that's amazing.
And
grabbed
then
your
you're supposed
hand.
to sit there and you're like, oh, what
Didn't
is that
you hear the
noise?
And you
airplane
have
earlier?
You have to look at the glass of water that's shaking each
Yes.
time, right? Is there
Yes.
a glass of water?
So where are you guys going from here? Do you think where as far as
To hell.
Quickly.
where do you see yourselves going from here? I mean, what's your guys' future look like?
Well, it's bleak.
I'm getting out
For
and
this
I'm out of
podcast,
here.
It can be questionable.
I'm leaving you guys behind. I'm out of here. So
Yeah.
Have you found a replacement for yourself yet?
no, I'm not convinced yet. I'm going.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I think I'm not the type of person that counts down to my retirement because I really don't think I'm going to retire when I'm retirement eligible. I'm praying to the good Lord that physically I will be able to work a lot longer than 53 because that's when I'll be eligible. And that'll mean I have reached 30 years with the department by then. And it feels like it went by so quickly, really. Most days. Other days it feels like it is 2 lifetimes.
It's the days I have to spend with Amy.
I know, right?
Is that when you come in my office and bug me? Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
So I really don't know, and I can't really go into any detail, but I'm kind of in limbo. So I just reached 13 years as a warden at this facility, and so I just don't know. I would have told you 6 years ago that I'd be in Boise by now. I really thought I would. I'm glad I'm not, and I'll just be honest. I don't envy my bosses right now in dealing with this COVID and all of the other challenges that they have. I've loved being this far away from the flagpole. But I do know that there are, potential opportunities coming up. We're going to be building a brand new facility in the Boise area. I just don't know what that's going to bring. I don't know. You just never know what's going to happen in life. So, I'm 6 years from retirement eligibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to retire in 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 4. But I'm going to probably be here another 10, so.
Yeah, I have 2. Either this year or next year I can retire, but it's just up in the air. It's not something I am planning right now.
As far as like if I ever leave the Department of Corrections, what I might do, I'd like to be able to set myself up to do like consultation type stuff on my own time. Maybe work for the National Institute of Corrections. I could be an instructor in something, I think I don't think I ever will stop working, as they say. If nothing else, I'll do a lot of maybe some volunteer work and that type of stuff. Corrections gets in your blood, though. And especially when it's the right passion and it's about people and you can still impact lives. And that's what I'm going to want to continue doing.
Yeah, I probably won't quit working as well. If I do retire, I'll probably start my own business again, building cabinets, because I really enjoy that kind of work. So,
What's the worst part of your jobs?
those 2. I'm just going to say it first. It's these 2.
I think being in a supervision role, some of the challenges that have been difficult is personnel issues. Those really take a toll on you after a while. And when we deal with stuff in the facility with the residents, it's not near as difficult as when you have people that you've worked with or they worked for you, maybe make some poor choices, and then you have to address those things, and those are rough, especially if you're really close with some people, like you've grown up in the ranks with them, and they're no longer here, and that's been rough because it kind of rocks the whole facility. It's not just us that gets affected by it. We have to sit and see the people that we care about in the facility also deal with it, and I think they go through a grieving process. And so you have the anger and denial, eventually they accept it. And so we end up fielding some phone calls every once in a while too during some of those cases. And I think that's rough because we're trying to process it ourselves and then also deal with, try to get them through it. So I've seen some of those cases come through. Those are probably the hardest for me. I don't like those.
Are you talking about if like a CO does something?
Yeah, if they do, something pretty drastic that makes it so that we have to move forward with like disciplinary, I can't even talk, action, that makes it, that's rough. That's tough. And I know her starting out as a warden, she had some pretty crazy stuff happen. And I was still a lieutenant then. And that was rough. That was probably it was a pretty difficult time for us. So... But then we've all had those too. I've had it as an investigation sergeant and ran into a couple different things that I was like, oh my God, I didn't think people did that. So
I would say staffing and personnel issues is definitely one of the harder things. When you're a correctional officer and maybe even a sergeant, I think that the day-to-day conflict that you're dealing with as far as on the ground, that was hard. The fact that you have to work shift work and sometimes overtime, those issues were the stressors then. And then as you promote through the ranks, it definitely for me became the personnel issues, and I guess to some degree being surprised sometimes by the behavior of people that you thought were your friends in a lot of ways. Not expecting the way that they would respond to you when you would try to address things. So that was a huge learning experience for me when I first became the warden, because I wasn't a sergeant here for very long. I wasn't a supervisor in Orfino for a lot of time. I spent most of my initial supervision time in Cottonwood and kind of was able to grow as a leader up there. And so when I came down here as the warden, I had to deal with some things that were really difficult. And so it jades you. It definitely jades you. And that's where your stressors end up coming from once you reach a certain level is personnel and staff issues.
Yeah, those are the hardest to deal with.
Do you even
honestly.
get stressed, really?
It's not,
No.
not really.
No.
Not typically, no.
You know what's interesting to me, and it probably would be to people just starting out in corrections on your side, is I've never, you guys just brought up a whole bunch of things that's, difficult in your job, but not one of them had to do with the residents.
No.
And I think that would surprise a lot of people,
I think so, because I think in the media and people that are working as correctional officers that are like what I would say on the ground, their vision of what stressors are is just completely different than what we see as stresses. I totally get the overtime issues, sometimes the inflexibility of our schedules that we have for people, because life comes up, and sometimes when you work shift work, it's really hard to work around people's life needs. And then also dealing with conflict. I know that as a CO, when I worked with close custody, specifically when we started talking about going to 12-hour shifts, my biggest concern, because I was a warden when we did that, it was shortly after I came here as the warden, and I clearly remember that an 8-hour shift for close custody units was the most I could have ever handled, because it was constant complaining, constant de-escalation of situations. You were always on guard. Close custody is just so much different than what we have now. And so I remember that, and I was so apprehensive about going to 12-hour shifts, because that's where I spent my time as a correctional officer when I was here, for the most part. And so I understand their stressors are completely different, but I would agree that most people don't understand that once you reach a leadership level, probably lieutenant and above, not saying sergeants don't have to worry about it, but it's a little bit less so. Lieutenant and above, I would bet 99% of those individuals will tell you that personnel issues are the hardest for people to deal with. And it's because you don't promote because you are a non-relational person. Even introverts can be relational, and it's important for them to have empathy and care and relationships with people. And when you deal with personnel issues, that creates conflict in that relationship, and that creates stress. And so I think that helps define why that's our biggest stress as a leader.
Yeah.
So we talked about stress levels. We talked about the different forms of stress that different levels of correctional professionals deal with. So when it comes to stress, maybe we could talk a little bit about what we try to do to relieve part of that. And obviously self-care is one of those things that we always encourage our staff to do. One of the things that we have started to see a lot more of over the last few years at this facility is staff starting to take care of each other a lot better. They're doing a lot more potlucks and even some get-togethers away from the facility on their days off. I know that it's really important for us to make sure that we're recognizing staff, but also recognizing each other. And then some of us are really bad about this, and some of us are better than others about self-care, which is, trying to exercise and work out and recognize when your mental health is starting to crash and not drinking more than we should as far as adult beverages, which is kind of funny because I'll just put this on the record that Kent and I we challenged each other to a dry month. So no beer, no wine, no
If they would have done like a no food month, I would have got on board on that one because I need to do that.
Well, some people have more issues with
food.
drinking
I
a
don't
beer
drink.
or two or three, or something. But anyway, no, we just challenged each other to that. And so it's important for us to hold each other accountable as well, hold ourselves accountable, take care of ourselves so that we can be healthy for our staff. What are some of the other things? Some hobbies, maybe.
Exercise really is important. Obviously, I haven't done enough of it, if you just look at me. But exercise really is important. And some of the things that we do staff-wise is we have a group that gets together and does jiu-jitsu. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. And you can tell when you're not doing it because people are like, man, we got to get back in there. We got to get this going again. 'Cause sometimes things come up like hunting season or, different things. But so it's really a good way. And then when you're working with your fellow staff doing that, it just helps, get rid of that stress that you had, that energy. You don't even think about it when you're on the mats because you don't have time to think about it. So it's a really good way for a lot of us to kind of get rid of that stress.
Yeah.
Some of us don't have a lot of what people would call hobbies. And I've always been told in every leadership thing that everyone should have a hobby. Well, I still really don't. But, there are still other things that you can do to take care of yourself. Amy, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm not crafty. I don't have any hobbies. No, I work. And then in the summer I'll camp, which is nice to get away and just have your phone turned off. Cause I think that's been a stressor for all of us is just to be connected all the time. But I need to find a hobby. I just don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah, we're not probably the best mentors when it comes to self-care. The truth is last year we took, I know that Amy and I've had that conversation. We didn't take a lot of vacation time. We just didn't feel like we could, but really we should have anyway. I was for 8 months maxed out on vacation. I was actually giving vacation time back to the state because I wasn't taking any. I finally donated some. And so I'm back down to at least a reasonable level. And so those are the things that we tell our staff to do, but we don't do ourselves. And so we're definitely going to be trying to do a little bit more of that this year for ourselves. We've already had those conversations. Kent, he always takes vacations. We don't worry too much about him.
I mean, he's not here. I mean, we don't know what
really
he's doing.
taking vacations. It's usually work stuff. It's not here.
I know it changed when I got a paw dog that has really bad anxiety. So when we get home, I would go out in the yard and do more out in the yard and just sit to let him run crazy because he's a nuts. So that was a little bit better for me to be out more and not stuck in the house when I first get home. And I was doing more yard work, so that was nice. But it's still not a break. It's not like what other people are doing.
So what about people coming in, these with new recruits and the new generation of correctional officers coming in? What are you guys, how is that as far as today and then when you guys started, you know?
Oh, wow.
Well, the state has a wellness program that they, as part of one of our benefits, and it has different things on, ways to eat, way to be healthy. They have different contests that you can enroll in and things of that nature. So some of that's already kind of ingrained in the job. But for brand new staff that come in, like I talked about the jiu-jitsu thing, it's kind of one of the things we do. We don't get paid to do that. It's all on our own time, but we offer it to everybody to come and work on some of those skills and, that kind of stuff. So we've tried to offer some of that stuff to people. Plus we do have a wellness room that staff, can get a key to. It's got a workout area. It's got a mat room area. So we do provide some of those things. Well, and not everybody, quite a few people do take advantage of the weight room. So kind of makes sense. And they've kind of, the wellness committee has gotten it to a little better state than it used to be. So it actually is more comfortable to work out in and cleaner and more organized. And so that's been good.
Is that the direction you were going with your question, Dave? Or were you just asking, is there a difference in the new generation?
Yeah, the new generation, I was kind of wondering about that also.
I was lost.
Hey, I went a direction.
Listen, I was just going to transition and not make you look like a fool, but okay then.
I'm also kind of curious. I know that there's been a little bit of an issue with recruiting. There's been a kind of a lag in recruiting new officers. And how is that going? Are you guys?
So I just have to put a plug in for Deputy Warden Anderson. Amy has done an amazing job with her recruitment team. We are probably the leading force in getting out of the traditional way of recruitment for correctional staff. And a lot of HR representatives are now looking what we've been doing for the last couple of years and kind of going with that. We didn't get a lot of support from HR because we're so far away from what I call the flagpole, meaning Boise, that we kind of had to do a lot of our own recruitment for a while because Orfino has never been 100, well, maybe for 0.5 seconds we were 100% staffed. It's just because we're rural. There's not a whole lot of housing opportunities in this community anymore. And so people have to choose if they're going to commute to work here. Those are some of the challenges that we have. And so as far as recruitment goes, I think Orfino itself and the staff that were delegated that responsibility have done a great job. We have actually done pretty well through this short staffing statewide issue. You're now seeing Boise being in a much more critical position than we are. They actually have National Guard members that were activated and are working in some of the Boise facilities at this point, typically in like outside patrol vehicles, entrance areas, not places where they're dealing with the day-to-day that typical prison,
Is that
processes
from COVID or from?
So I think COVID is a huge part of it, especially in the Boise area. But you also have a lot of kind of national issues, which is a staffing shortage in every area. I mean, wherever you drive, you see help wanted signs, now hiring. Everybody is increasing their wages. I mean, you start out at McDonald's at $15 an hour now. And so our department had to take a serious look at that. We are starting to see more people applying, at least in this area, because we've increased the starting wage to $19 an hour. They're also doing a lot of bonuses, retention bonuses, sign-on bonuses, that type of thing. So we're getting up to speed with what some of the other states are doing as well, because we used to lose a lot of people to Washington or Oregon because they pay higher, but they also have it's also a higher rate of living, cost of living in those states. A lot of your younger people, what they're looking at is the amount of cash that's sitting on the table after they get a paycheck. They're not looking at what the state is paying towards health insurance and retirement. It's really when you get our age that those are important things. Or when you start to have a family, it's nice to have insurance. Really, that's when it happens. And so we kind of had to look at it. I think the state had to look at it from two different views. And that was, if we're going to start collecting and encouraging younger people to come work for us, which they changed the age requirement to 18. I would personally say that we've had a 50-50 success rate on that.
What was it before?
21.
It's actually switched a couple times because
times.
when I started, it was actually before me. It was 18, and then it switched to 21, and
It was
then
21 when I hired on.
Yeah,
Because I was 23 when I started, I think.
I was going to ask, with your guys' experience within the department, you've seen a lot of changes, I'm sure. What do you think the future holds for the system? What direction do you think it's going in? And where do you think it's going to be for the next generation of wardens who will be here?
To tell you the truth, I didn't think that we would ever be where we're at today, especially that I would ever be dealing with what we call a pandemic like we did with COVID. My hope is that we can continue that this facility, that this staff can be the pilot for the direction that our entire agency eventually goes to. While I understand that there is always a place for a max facility, because there are people that don't want to change and that want to create victims. That is the truth, right? How many people, though, could we impact if we could encourage this form of culture change at some of those other facilities that are in Boise? And I do think that there is a form of that going on. I just think that we are really at the forefront of that change. My hope is that the people that are coming in behind me see the changes that I am making, not only in myself, but encouraging in my staff, my leadership style, the residents that are here, the things that you guys are experiencing, and only want to continue to add to those resources and add to those tools and to continue to be progressive in that approach. That is what I hope happens. I think that there are people out there, people that are working for me today that are probably even correctional officers today that have that passion. And eventually somebody will be sitting in this seat, not me, in 20 years, and hopefully talking about the great things that they are able to continue doing. That's what I hope. I'm horrible at actually predicting things, so I just hope that that's the direction that we continue to go. Do either one of you want to add to that?
Yeah, so our direction is really open right now. The department has done a lot of things, like just in education. I can really speak to that. We have Wi-Fi for resident use. Now, it's not turned on, obviously, because there's a lot of controls that need to be in place. But that's already been installed and done. So the infrastructure is already there. So moving on to allowing college courses, working with colleges, that secondary education stuff that we're trying to provide. Also, not just that, but we're really looking at providing technical skills or VOTEC type classes where you can get a certification and then you can get out and get a job immediately with a good earning wage. So it's actually a career, not just, now I can go work at McDonald's or whatever the case may be. No, you may get out and start there just before you pick up that other job. But at least you already have the skills ready to go. You're already certified through a college with that certification. So I foresee the department continuing in that direction. Now, we're not there yet, but we're getting close. And when Warden Carlin talked about this being a pilot program or a pilot, we do a lot of this stuff here prior to it going elsewhere. That's what we're doing with the Pell Grant stuff. We're actually, us and PWCC are going to pilot that this next semester in the fall. So hopefully everything gets approved, the colleges get chosen, we can get that option, and then we can actually move into that. So
I think education, and I think it's pretty much been proven that education is one of the biggest drivers of people being successful once they get out of prison. I don't think there's anything else that would work more towards somebody not coming back to prison than if they could leave here with an education, with a college degree.
And I would agree. I think that's a huge piece to the success of, and even just building your confidence as far as residents go. I was rudely talking while Kent was trying to talk about what's going on in programs, because I don't want to forget another population that works here. While we continue to talk about making things better for the people that are incarcerated, there's a huge population of individuals that come to work here every day. And if we're not making their work environment safe, they're going to be jerks to you guys, right? So we have to change that culture as well. So I've asked Amy to kind of talk about the direction we're going for staff to make this a good place to work, a place where we can actually make change happen, and then just kind of the things that we're hoping will continue to be a success for staffing.
I think the biggest thing that you're going to see and you continue to see is that the pay is getting better and better. And the benefits continue to be better than most places. When I started, I think it was like $8, $9. And eventually you got to 10 if you got it through your probation. And that was what I lived on. And that was a big deal to me. And so now you have a whole different pay. I mean, $19 coming out the gate. That's pretty good.
No education, no college.
No.
Just hired
If you have work
18 years old
experience.
out of high school.
Because we can teach you all that. We can
Exactly.
get you there, and that's the biggest thing. You know, this facility has spent a lot of time behind the scenes trying to focus on retention. And I don't know that sometimes people realize that, even though we try to communicate it a lot, or we think we're communicating it a lot. I mean, you can only put out so many emails and have so many discussions. It's really what you, if you're listening or taking that in. But we, like 7 years ago, started that direction and getting all our supervisors on board in one room and said enough. Like if people are leaving because you're a bad supervisor, you're going to be held accountable. That's just not going to be acceptable anymore. And then people were held accountable. And we got that direction when Kevin Kemp was the director, and he said, you can't have that. And so Tarima took that to heart and said, how do we fix this? And so we all, brainstormed that. And the biggest thing was to get them in one room and let them hear what the expectation was. And we weren't joking around about that. And I think they knew that, but they were on board. And then we said, what do we need to do? What do we need to address? What are the areas that we need to improve on? And what are we doing well? All our supervisors came up with all the plans for recruiting, how to improve some staff things. Like, we redid our lounge. We got water fountains that you could fill up your water bottle. That's a huge thing. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it was huge to them. We let them tell us what those things were. We did a lot of stuff in that first couple of years, and it made a huge impact. And then we changed the direction we were going with our corporals. And that, I think made a big impact too, because we gave them more responsibility. They were now part of the team. So we've done a lot of work in the background on culture. And people come. I think what gets me is I've been here when it was probably pretty dark in my younger days. And I had supervisors that I learned a lot from what not to do. And there were days, I kid you not, I would hit the gate almost in tears because I was coming to work and just be like, okay, I got to deal with this person again. And I never want that for someone else that is working here while we're here. I never want that to be the case. And I didn't have anybody I could go have that conversation with. And I hope that we have leaders in place now that you can do that. You can have that conversation. The other part is that we have these surveys that are coming out now. And when we get the feedback, we have a purpose focus group. And Tarima puts them all in the room and says, here's the 3 hot topics. Tell us what we have to do to fix that. They have to come up with a plan. Because we can come up with plans all day long and it completely miss the mark. So they have to tell us what they want from us. Sometimes it works. Sometimes there are things that we can't do for whatever reason, money, budgets, time. But they have more say now than they ever had before. We never did stuff like that before. We never had that. Mm-hmm. So, and it's productive. It's not a complaint session. So, I mean, there's probably a lot more that we've done over the years. But those are the biggest things, is just changing the supervision culture.
I hate it because you ask these questions and they're so much deeper than they initially feel when you ask them. And one of the things that I love about you, Dave, is that you give all of us an opportunity to kind of share. And yes, I do end up having probably more airtime than some of you.
What?
But I just start thinking about people when you ask those types of questions and the direction that I'm hoping that corrections goes. And I just don't think that people understand the connection between happy staff, happy residents.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you've been in this environment and in this system. And so I never want to discount the importance of my staff, because sometimes it feels like they get a little overlooked because it feels like we're only giving the attention to they feel like we're only giving the attention to the residents and giving them opportunities and resources and tools. That's really our job. But my job as a leader is to also provide my staff with resources as well. I would love to see the Department of Corrections at some point become progressive enough to help support staff education as well. And I think that hopefully one day we will be able to do that. I know other states have programs, gives their staff opportunities, helps pay for certain things. I would love to see Idaho at some point go that direction as well. I have a lot of correctional officers and corporals and even sergeants that would love to be case managers, because they're a little bit more relational and they'd be great case managers, but they can't meet the education requirement for that. And I think that that is something that would be very beneficial as well. So there's another piece I would like to add to that.
Anytime you're investing in people, you're gonna get results. Whether it be education or, yeah. So I got a question.
Okay.
So when am I going to hear about Director Carlin?
I'm not sure.
Dun, dun.
I'm not sure I will ever make it to that level.
They're not ready for her.
I really don't know if I will ever make it to that level. I did apply once for the director's position for pardons and parole, and guess what place I came in?
What?
Second.
We weren't sad about that because we got to keep her, but
Right.
we were a little stressed.
That was like year 5 or 6 of being a warden, and it was weird. I've never, I promoted to warden at like 34, and that was a pretty young warden. I mean, there's been a few since then that were younger, but I think Kevin Kempf was actually the youngest. I don't know if he still holds the record, but when I interviewed for the pardons and parole position, it was for the director. It was when Olivia Craven had left. She'd been there forever, and so it was like a pretty big deal. And I actually interviewed with the governor, and it was Governor Otter at the time. And he was a character. I really enjoyed meeting him. I got him distracted, though, because we started talking about horses. And so his lieutenant governor at the time, who is now our governor, Mr. Brad Little, he kind of had to bring us back to the table and have a discussion about what we were really doing at the time. But it was the first time that I had ever interviewed at that level, and it was very interesting. And while I was really disappointed I didn't get it at the time, it was one of those things that it just wasn't my time, and I had a purpose here.
Yeah. Well, maybe the right time will.
You never know.
You just never know. Yeah. I think you'd be a great director.
I don't know. You right.
You want me to write you a reference letter?
I would love that. I mean, would love to get that from you, Dave. But the truth is that at this point in time, we have the best. And I'm not kissing any rear end right now. Really, I love the director that we have. He is in the right place at the right time, because you have to be very politically correct, and that is not my forte. So I'm definitely not somebody that is a smooth talker. I usually just say it how it is, or at least how I see it, and that's not always the best way.
Come down.
Yeah. So while I appreciate the confidence, and while I would, if ever given that opportunity, I would take that challenge on, and I think that I would dominate that challenge. I don't know if I'll ever get there.
What about you, Shriver?
Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen for me.
Well, I
Okay.
think this was really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Huh? You want to like close it down,
Close
or are
out.
we just
Close out. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dave, for setting us up with these questions and talking with us and
Yeah.
kind of going through our careers and where we're at today and our vision and
I hope we didn't
Talk about
bore
how old we are.
everybody.
just you bored us, but everybody else is good. Everybody else is good. We appreciate
good.
it. She's controlling the podcast again.